Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists. Hello, I'm Dango Rose, and this is the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening.
And I'm Cynthia Davis. In this week's episode, we hear from Amara East, who will be telling us about the Gold Hill Kiva and the special significance of the monthly fire ceremony.
We hear this week's music mentions from Jamie Lammers, and special correspondent Marianne Rosen will share a story on the mythological roots of Easter.
Then, Dango interviews Charlie Rose, proprietor of BeanJo Coffee, whose new worldly beans are now available for tasting at the Jamestown Mercantile.
And for our final segment, Cynthia will speak with Bridget Law, Peak to Peak Fiddler at Large, about her new release with the Tierro band called Everlasting Dance. But first, some news from your neighborhood.
Pick it up before it's gone. The spring It's Your Turn issue is out on stands now. Look inside to enjoy art, stories, photographs, poems, and more, all submitted by your Peak to Peak community.
The first annual Netter Days event has been described as a thrilling success for all. Netherland businesses and townsfolk welcomed visitors of all ages to enjoy music, dancing, ice sculptures, and sledding right through the middle of town. Be sure and go online or pick up a copy of the Mountaineer newspaper to read more.
Voting for the Peak to Peak Youth Art Show is still underway. Be sure to visit our website or Facebook page for more information on how to cast your vote for the People's Choice Award. Winners will be announced in a future issue of the Mountaineer newspaper.
A new art gallery just opened in downtown Ned. Go by and visit Lolo's Atelier, located in the heart of downtown, right on First Street. The gallery features fine art, original paintings, and more by owner and artist Laurence Delaunay, affectionately known around town as Lolo.
Read more local news and feature stories in print and online at themountaineer.com.
And that's it for this week's news briefs. If you have something to share, you can send requests for submission to info@themountaineer.com. As long as it meets our community standards, we'll be sure to include it in a future episode. Brightwood Music has been serving the Peak to Peak region and beyond since opening in 2008. The full-service music store offers new and used instruments and will even repair the ones you've got. Go ahead and check them out on Facebook at Brightwood Music. Brightwood Music is the best music store with altitude across the Peak to Peak.
Now, for our lead story, we head up to Gold Hill and speak to Amara East. Amara helps lead a monthly fire ceremony at the Gold Hill Kiva. Amara, can you tell us more about the ceremony and how you got started?
Hi. My name's Amara, and I've been leading the fire ceremony at the Kiva in Gold Hill for about 8 years. I learned to do it from a lady from Netherlands, Lisa Marie, and she is amazing ceremonialist and flute player who does shows around Netherlands. But we have this Kiva that was built back in 1989 in Gold Hill. And the followers were from a Native American tradition. Joseph Rael is the Indian, Picaras Pueblo Indian, who asked that these sound chambers be built around the world. So we're sending out healing prayers for the waters of the world on the 7th of every month. And I've been doing that just because it's a really good thing to do. And the peace chambers around the world do it at exactly 7 o'clock in their time zone. So there's a wave of peace and harmony and vibration that goes around the world on that day.
And would you describe to our listeners what a fire ceremony is and how it's performed?
Yeah, it's a sacred ceremony. We use sound because it's a sound chamber. So we honor the 4 directions with different vowel tones, A, E, O, U, and we bring in all of the directions, and then we light a little stick fire at exactly 7 o'clock inside the chamber. And we have a little smoke hole at the top so the smoke can go out. But usually there's not that much smoke. But anyway, we watch the fire burn down completely, and we don't talk during that time. And then afterwards, people can share about what they have experienced while watching the fire.
Are there any other events held up at the Gold Hill Kiva?
Got the fire ceremony on the 7th. And then on the 9th, which is actually Easter, I didn't realize it, but the 9th is the sweat lodge. And we also do the honoring the 4 directions. And if people are invited, they can sing songs that are directed towards peace and harmony in the world. And it's potluck afterwards. And probably the sweat lodge can fit about 20 people, I would say max. And the Kiva, where the fire ceremony is, it's called a sound chamber. It's called Thunder Song. That's the name of our particular sound chamber. That can fit about 15 max.
So tell us more about the sweat lodge.
So basically, we have to get permission up here to start fires because any time of year there's potential of fire danger. So we always, make sure that the fire department knows we're going to do it. And then we light a fire and outside and heat up the rocks for 2 or 3 hours before the sweat lodge. And then we bring in the rocks, probably 7 rocks at a time, into the center of the sweat lodge. And then when you pour water on it and everything is closed up, it's totally dark and it gets really warm in there. And so people say their prayers and they state their intentions, and sometimes there's a healing round, and you can pray for others, you can pray for yourself. But it's very much like they've done in the past. The Native Americans have done this for centuries. And we as white people are just trying to follow and keep their sacraments holy, basically, and do the right thing by bringing harmony and peace to the world.
And Amara, how do people sign up or get involved?
You can either look on the Facebook page Gold Hill Kiva, where I announce things every month. And also you can get in touch with me at amaraeast@hotmail.com.
Thank you so much, Amara. It was a real pleasure speaking with you. This is truly a unique and special event. We'll be sure to add links and other details on how to get in touch in our show notes.
Now we go to correspondent Jamie Lammers, who will be delivering this week's Music Mentions.
And now for this week's Music Mentions. Juicy Brews, located at 70 East 1st Street in Nederland on Sunday, April 9th at 2 p.m. to check out Ashley Priest performing live. Head to the Covered Wagon every Thursday at 7 p.m. to check out a karaoke night. They're located at 15 East 1st Street in Nederland. Head to the Gold Hill General Store and Pub, located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill on Sunday, April 9th at 3 p.m. to see the Foggy Tops Bluegrass Band performing live. Head to Howlin' Wind Brewing, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville on Saturday, April 8th at 4 p.m. to see C.P. Meyer performing live. Head to the Jamestown Mercantile on 108 Main Street in Jamestown to check out the Lofty Pines on Thursday, April 6th at 7 p.m. and the Patrick Deflefs Band on Friday, April 7th at 7 p.m. Every Saturday at 5 p.m., Knotted Root Brewing is hosting the Brewers Dozen featuring Kings of Prussia and Friends. Every Sunday at 4 p.m., they will also be hosting Jazz Sundays with Black Dog and Friends. Head to 250 North Caribou Street in Nederland to check them out for yourself. The Millside Inn hosts a Dan Jam every Saturday at 6 p.m. You can check them out at 44365 Highway 72 in Ward. Ned's Cafe hosts a Dan Jam every Thursday at 10 p.m. and a karaoke night every Sunday at 7 p.m. Head to 121 North Jefferson Street in Nederland to check them out for yourself. And finally, head to Very Nice Brewing Company, located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, number 112 in Nederland on Friday, April 7th at 6 p.m. to see Jackson Maloney performing live, and on Saturday, April 8th at 5 p.m. to see Stonehall performing live. Did we miss you or your performance? Want to submit your music listing in the Peak to Peak area? Do you have updates to your business or to your performances? Please call 303-810-5409 or email info@themountaineer.com to be included in the next print edition or the next podcast of The Mountain Ear.
Thank you, Jamie. Now let's drop in with special correspondent Marianne Rosen, who shares a striking tale about the mythological roots of Easter.
As is true for so many holidays that are recognized, there is an overlap between pagan, Judaic, and pre-Christian festivals and the Christian holiday celebrated as Easter. Best known as a Christian commemoration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ after his crucifixion, it also has a more secular connotation associated with rebirth and spring. Although there are many who claim that religions which predate Christianity contain stories about dying and rising gods, and these myths and tales do abound, there seems to be a large and controversial debate about whether early Christians adopted these stories as their own. Whether you celebrate by attending church or recognize the holiday's Christian origins often depend on which religion you ascribe to and how religious you are. So I will pivot away from the religious discourse and turn our attention to the more secular celebration of Easter, where its intersection with ancient lore is definitely there. Easter traditions, including bunnies, dyeing eggs, giving baskets, and eating a feast, are great ways to honor spring with loved ones. After a cold winter, it is natural to celebrate themes of rebirth and resurrection, flowers blooming, birds laying eggs, and baby bunnies hopping about. There is no doubt that Easter is observed during what was the holiday of Ostera, honoring the goddess Istra, the goddess of spring and fertility. That festival, as well as Easter, began on the first Sunday after the first full moon following the spring equinox. This year, that is April 9th. As the goddess of spring and fertility, it is no wonder that bunnies were associated with Easter, as they are known for their fertility. The modern version of the Easter bunny came from this association, but the bunny delivering baskets and candy was popularized by marketing companies in the 20th century. Filling baskets with eggs actually came from Germany, where children would make nests filled with grass in hopes they would be filled with eggs. These nests evolved into Easter baskets. And why eggs? Eggs represent newness of life and rebirth, and were eventually adopted by Christians to represent the resurrection. Food played heavily in the equinox celebration, so it is no wonder that it is also an important part of Easter. Cross buns were served during the feast of Easter, and it is believed that these overly risen breads were adopted by Christians to differentiate their food from the unleavened bread served at Passover. Eating a big meal with family to celebrate spring has been going on since pre-Christian times, and so it continues into the Christian Easter celebration. More secular households served ham, which in many cultures is a symbol of good luck. In more religious homes, lamb was traditionally served, as lamb is a symbol for Christ. There are so many other correlations between ancient spring festivals and the secular side of Easter, but I will end this story by stating a very fun fact: that the Easter staple of jelly beans were originally a Christmas treat and actually have no Easter-themed meaning at all. And to wish all who celebrate a happy Easter.
Okay, folks, it's the Bizarre Cat Bazaar call to action for vendors, artists, musicians, and merrymakers. If you want to be a part of this exciting new event taking place in the heart of Nederland, go to thebizarrecatbazaar.com. That's with both bazaars, a cat in the middle, and a .com.
And now a quick business spotlight for you coffee lovers in Jamestown. I recently sat down and spoke with Charlie Rose, who's now offering his fresh roasted beans at the Mercantile. Hey, Charlie, could you introduce yourself real quick for our listening audience?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my name is Charlie Rose, and I play in Elephant Revival. I play banjo and steel guitar and mandolin and other stuff.
Awesome. And today we're here to talk with you about your new coffee roasting company called BeanJo Coffee. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Started a coffee roasting business called BeanJo Coffee, and I'm partnered with Moxie Bread, and they're my main distributor, but I'm also partnered with the Merc in Jamestown.
So how long has your coffee actually been at the Jamestown Mercantile?
Well, really just started in the past month. Took some beans up to my friend Rainbow, and she tried it out on her espresso machine, and she was really into it. So she said, okay, bring me, let's do this. So she's serving it as espresso, but then I also have bags of both my medium and light roast available as retail full bean up there too. You can just go in and get it and take it home and brew it.
And the Merc is doing brunch on the weekends. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Like Saturday and Sundays. Boy, it's really good. I had a breakfast burrito that was bigger than my head and more delicious, you know.
So Charlie, tell us a little bit about the story of how BeanJo got started.
Well, BeanJo started in 2020, and we all know that that was a year for many of us to sort of figure out some new ways, new things to do. I was learning a lot about business, and I have been in the music business, for 20 plus years. And especially after Elephant had been taking a break since 2018, and I had been doing a lot of work on my own music as well as working a lot of other artists and doing recording and producing. And I was really excited to be hosting more recording projects at my house. And part of that was I wanted to be able to offer really special coffee just because I enjoy drinking good coffee, and it's part of the creative process and inspiration is just having a good cup of coffee. So then fast forward to the next year, and Moxie Bread and our friend Andy Clark were going to open a new location here in Lyons. And basically, I just got roped into that whole project of opening the new coffee shop. And then once that was established and going strong, I basically got my coffee to the point where I was ready to share it and to sell it. This year, they started serving it as their drip coffee and espresso. So it's just more and more. And now I'm in all three of the Moxie locations. And then now we've just added the Merc in Jamestown.
Thanks, Charlie. And are you thinking about expanding into other locations in the mountains along the peak to peak?
Whoa, absolutely. Yeah. I am now getting to the point where I am looking to buy my next roaster, which will triple or to maybe 5 times the capacity that I've been roasting at. So in order to scale up like that, you have to sell more coffee. So I will be looking to kind of expand, and definitely serving the peak to peak would just be an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Charlie. And how can everyone out there find out more about you and BeanJo Coffee?
Well, I've been trying to keep up to date on websites and social media stuff. So I'm out there. I have a BeanJo Coffee Instagram and Facebook, and that website is under construction. And there's my own Char Rose or Charlie Rose music. So it's out there.
Thank you, Charlie. Well, I'm sure looking forward to my next cup of BeanJo espresso or coffee, and we look forward to hearing more from you soon. That was a portion of the Tierro Band's new release, Dorset of Perception, off of Everlasting Dance. Next, we hear from Bridget Law, Peak to Peak Fiddler at Large, about her new album release with the Tierro Band.
So, Bridget, we have affectionately referred to you as our Peak to Peak Fiddler at Large. Can you tell our listeners how most people would know you?
So, hi, I'm Bridget Law, and the Peak to Peak region is like my stomping grounds. Let's see. So, Elephant Revival basically birthed the band in Netherlands back in like 2006, starting around there. So we all lived in various places, and I lived on Caribou Road, and I lived at the Hitchin Post in Eldora. I worked at Eldora, played lots of music at Rollinsville at the Stop and Frozen Dead Guy Days. And even my husband and I had a few gigs like at the Eldora bar when we were first getting together. So I've made a lot of music. So recently, not too long ago, I guess it was when I had a baby in my belly. So that would have been pre-COVID, but there was like an event up at the Gilpin County Fairgrounds with the Sweet Lilies, and I sat in as a special guest. So yeah, I've made a lot of music in the Indian Peaks region. So probably that way. Oh, and the Caribou Room. Oh my gosh, wonderful nights in the Caribou Room. Really magical, whether it was Tierro Band or Vince Herman and Friends on 420. I've played the Caribou Room a few times.
And did you grow up in Colorado?
Yeah, my family I was born and did my early years actually in the heart of Denver, like Washington Park. That's where I lived I grew up in the house that my grandpa grew up in Washington Park. Slowly, as things progressed into my teenage years, my family just like one by one kind of migrated to Boulder. Yeah, we just kind of all ended up in Boulder County.
So do you think your Colorado roots have influenced how you write and play music?
Yeah, totally. I especially see that when I like play at Winter Wondergrass, for example. And, there's like, I host my job there these days. I've done it all there, from headline the main stage with Elephant to working behind the scenes. But these days, I help with the Winter Wonder Women, which is kind of the all-star female bluegrass band that plays there. And, that whole like Colorado thing musically is very obvious to me when I'm having these rotated women musicians. Like I guess it was Steamboat 2022, but we had like one day that felt very Colorado girls, like the Big Richard girls joined and, stuff. And then the next day was like the Nashville girls joined to show up. And it was like Molly Tuttle and Sierra Hull and stuff. And, it just kind of like, the vibe changed. The musicianship was wonderful all the way around. I would say that the Nashville girls, definitely like took it up a notch. And I think there's something in the Colorado sound that is also kind of a little more laid back, less uptight. We're not trying to it's less competitive. It's kind of more about vibe and fun and letting spirit float and, everybody enjoying the ride kind of thing, versus kind of being the best of the best, I would say. We love it. Like, no Colorado. I don't hear Colorado people complaining about the music that's coming out of Colorado. Like, we're all into it.
So in addition to Elephant Revival, we also heard there's a new album with the Tierro band that you've been working on.
Yeah, this is a really, really special album to me. This album has a lot of my originals that I wrote kind of traveling when I was younger. There's one that I wrote in Alaska on an island called Sitka. There's one that's kind of got the spooky flair to it that was written at an Elephant Revival show. That was at a funeral parlor in Portland, which is somewhere that I kind of have these reoccurring experiences that lead me to believe I had a past life there. So that was kind of a surreal experience, kind of channeling that tune. There's some of Tierro's originals on there too. There's this awesome song called Casa Latina, which he's been kind of writing and rewriting for years and years. And it's just got this really great kind of contemporary Latin feel, which who doesn't love that, right? And he's really embodied that beautifully. So Tierro and I kind of coming together, bringing our songs together, him spicing my songs up, me spicing his songs up. That's kind of really the foundation of this album. And then beyond that, we were just so lucky to collaborate with just the most incredible musicians. And then there's a few guest singers on the record that we collaborated with, one of which is Bonnie Payne, who's the lead singer for Elephant Revival. And she's my best friend of now 2 decades, full on, and so much more than a best friend even. She's, it's like a spiritual contract or something we're in. But it's wonderful, and she's a delight. And in this, on this album, she's singing in Portuguese. We did a Spangle cover, and it's like a Portuguese kind of operatic sounding song. And I have a little harmony in there too, and it's very cool. It's basically an EDM song that we did with a live band because it felt kind of Latin and gave it some rich instrumentation.
And Bridget, if you could tell us the name of the new album and how people can find it.
Everlasting Dance is the new album by Tierro Band with Bridget Law. So when you Spotify that, you look for Tierro Band or Bridget Law, and it'll get you there. There isn't. Our previous album was called Tierro Band with Bridget Law, and so that can, you'll see that as the older music. This music is on our page, Tierro Band.
Thank you, Bridget. And we wish you many more moments of making music across these mountains. You can find links to Everlasting Dance, Elephant Revival, and more music by the Tierro Band in our show notes. That concludes this week's episode of the Mountain Air Podcast, where everybody's listening.
Visit our website at www.themountaineer.com to read more information about today's guests. Pick up a copy of this week's print edition of The Mountaineer at newsstands all across the Peak to Peak. I'm Dango Rose.
And I'm Cynthia Davis. Thank you for listening.
Every day is a better day in Netherlands.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.